Delighted to say that Michael Verney, sports writer with the Irish Independent, has joined us in studio. Morning to you, Mick. How's it going?
Good, Adrian, yeah.
So Waterford is the topic of conversation. Let's move on with that. They're playing Tip, obviously, this weekend, and Dennis is pretty pessimistic about them there. Derek McGrath, writing in the paper this morning, is kind of the opposite of that. Where are you sitting on Waterford after the opening round?
Yeah, I'd be reasonably optimistic. They just, for whatever, with expectation on them, they just didn't deliver last weekend, and there was an awful lot expected of them, and we were expecting this hostile atmosphere in Walsh Park, which never really got a chance to develop because they just didn't deliver performance till the last 10 minutes. But they actually come in, because of that last 10 minutes and making a fight of it at the end, they come in a much better position than if they've been beaten by 6 or 7 points. They come in, I'd say, reasonably optimistic, and they know that they have to try and save their season on Sunday. Very little expected of them now. They obviously hopped off Tipperary in the corresponding fixture last year, and I expect them to do so again. They're just going to have to tighten up at the back a little, and there's probably going to be a few personnel switches, and Maurice Shanahan will probably be in much earlier maybe. If they're still in the game with 20-25 minutes to go, which I do expect them to be, I think they have a great shout. And Tipperary aren't probably as good as we saw last Sunday either.
Do you not think? Yeah, because it's interesting listening to the conversation during the week post that game has been that Tipperary are back. Obviously flattered to deceive a little bit in the Munster Championship, particularly last year, but that they're back, and Liam Sheedy has them singing a proper tune. And I know it's only 1 week down, but already people are saying, well, who's going to stop this Tipperary team? Well,
we probably thought that after the league game against Cork as well, they were very similar. Can you deliver that type of intensity again? I look back at the game again the other night. The work rate, the block, everyone talks about the hook block turnover count in hurling, and they bullied Cork in that regard. There was blocks going in everywhere, there was flicks going in everywhere. Can they deliver that same intensity again Sunday? You have to remember, it's only 7 days later, and now they're coming in. They had a point to prove last Sunday. They don't necessarily have a point to prove. Everyone's been clapping them on the back for the last week. That does go to your head a small bit. Will they be able to put in that same kind of work rate? Will some of the older bodies, I'm just over 30 now and I'm sore for a week after a match, so they're going to be hurting now because they played for the guts of 80 minutes last week, so they're probably not going to be able to get into the positions that they were able to get into last week. I wouldn't lose the run of myself with Tipperary just based on 1 week. Now the talent has always been there. But yeah, I wouldn't be going mad just on one performance.
What is it about them? What is their work rate? Obviously, is something people talk about. But what are you seeing with this Tipperary team with Sheedy back from what we'd seen last year?
Well, we all know what they can do with the ball. And say John O'Dwyer's pass to John McGrath for his goal, that kind of sums up what Tipperary can do. It's just,
and that Sheedy is unlocking this freedom in them. Is this what's his secret sauce?
I wouldn't say he's unlocking that. He's essentially, any good manager, he's brought the work rate back. He's brought that hunger back, where they're just literally going for every ball. I can take one thing for example. Callan got a point with maybe 2 or 3 minutes to go the last day, out near the touchline, and he was always shooting for a point. 100% when he got the ball, he was always shooting for a point. And one of the Tipperary forwards had made a 50-yard run across for the 1% chance that he would drop it short or even play a ball across. That type of thing. It's just that they're making runs, they're making the selfish runs that you don't even see 9 times out of 10. That's the thing. We've never doubted their class. We probably have doubted their work rate. If their work rate is as high as it was last Sunday, they're going to be contenders. But that's very hard. It's very hard to gauge them on one Sunday. They could be turned upside down next Sunday, and we could be saying on Monday, Jesus, that was a bit of an aberration with Tipperary. One swallow doesn't make a summer and that kind of crack. So I wouldn't be losing run of myself now yet.
What about the matchup in terms of the specific threat that Waterford will pose? In that same column by Derek McGrath this morning, he's saying to get the best out of Tadhg de Búrca as a deep-lying 6, they need to have a body of people in front of him. How does that work, and how would that play into Tipperary's hands?
Yeah, because I would always say that Tadhg de Búrca is a brilliant hurler, but for the last, let's call a spade, for the last 5 years, he hasn't had to mark a man. And now he's marking a man, and he was kind of marking Tony Kelly last, and he didn't know whether to kind of stick or twist, and Tony was kind of dragging him out, and he didn't know. He wanted to sit back, and he was kind of caught between 2 stools. So I'd imagine, I wouldn't be a bit surprised if, not that they play a sweeper, but that they just try and pull more bodies back and give him that freedom that if his man is floating around there, that maybe one of the midfielders is designated, if he drops back around there, you're picking him up and you're letting Tadhg sit, because that's his best role. His best role is not necessarily marking a man. It's more trying to get on free ball, on loose kind of ball around there, and defending his full back and giving him a bit more space. John Collins' goal the last day, I think Noel Connors went and Conor Prunty went, and they were just thinking, oh, we have a man back there.
Yeah.
And there was no man back there
one.
on John Conlon. It's just because they're probably used to a system, and that was probably a bit of a culture shock to them. I wouldn't be a bit surprised if he sits a good bit further back this week.
I do wonder how different it'll be then if you look at the differences between Tip's 11 and Clare's 11. Like Tony Kelly, just that free role of roaming around and actually kind of passing the ball short if he needs to, trying to unlock the defence, where Seamus Callan is get the ball and go for goal. Or even if he gets a yard, he's putting the ball over the bar. So they're very different 11s. How does that affect how Waterford will approach it?
Yeah, and even John O'Dwyer went out to 11 for long stages as well the other day. He's not, would say, shall we say, that real deep line 11. He's not going to come back to his own 65. They want him in attacking position, so he's probably going to be 80 yards up. Callan's an interesting one. While he's not maybe lying that deep, his work rate has been on crazy levels in a couple of games this year now, but in particular the other day, he was the one getting a flick 45 or 65 yards back. But I just think Jamie Byrne will probably sit back maybe towards Callan if he's out around 11, and they'll just try and allow Ty de Burke that freedom just to play his best role. But yeah, it's funny, like there's no kind of two centre forwards the same in the game, and Tony Kelly is in no way like Seamus Callan. They're two different. Tony Kelly gets the ball and wants to put it over from 100 yards. Callan gets the ball out there. He's probably going to want to go straight at his man. So yeah, they're different challenges, but I think that this might suit De Burke a bit more and suit Waterford a bit more.
Yeah, I think so.
Limerick Cork, the game of the weekend, do you think this weekend, or what do you think?
I don't. I think Dublin Wexford is the game of the weekend, but Limerick and Cork again is seriously interesting. You have Limerick who were sitting back for the first week watching everybody else. The one thing I say about Cork is, and people are very quick to write them off, I tip Cork for the All Ireland. I'm not gonna.
I backed him.
Yeah.
I cash out now.
But
are you sticking with that, are you?
No, I will. Yeah, I'd be happy if they can sneak into that third spot in Munster. I'd be delighted. Their defence was. Again, it was like an exhibition game against Tipperary the other day, and they just didn't lay a glove on their defenders. The game I'll go back to is the league game with Limerick and Cork. During the league, Cork were having a disastrous league. Were after being beaten, I think they were pasted by Tipperary the week before, and came in and just rocked Limerick in the Gaelic rounds. Right. They're the one team over the last 2 years that we've seen that can beat Limerick and be really, really competitive. They drew with them in Munster last year, drew with them in the All-Ireland semi-final. Yeah.
Added time, they should have won that game.
Should have beaten. We're 6 points up with time nearly up, and then beat them in the league this year. So on recent form, they're actually the one team that can beat Limerick, and I wouldn't be writing them off just on last Sunday. They'd be hopeful. I think Alan Cadigan was back training Tuesday night. Bill Cooper, as long as nothing happens with his back again before the match. I think they're two big bodies. Alan Cadigan probably won't start, but he'll probably come in. Steve McDonald could come back into the defence, maybe cornerback. Niall O'Leary and Owen Cadigan actually did well in the full back line. There were two of the few that did. Chris Joyce probably won't start, I'd say. And Cork were a funny one at the weekend. They just never got more. And Mark Coleman was always putting it on the back foot anytime he got the ball. Darragh Fitzgibbon got on very little ball, and they're expecting their midfielders to hit 4 or 5 points in every game, and I don't think they scored. Any of their midfielders scored. I expect a massive bounce out of them on Sunday.
Right.
There has to be.
Looking at it, to me, it feels like it would be an almighty shock, because given the quality we've seen from that Limerick team, but you're saying actually don't be that surprised.
I wouldn't be a bit surprised. The two teams that have been written off this weekend are Waterford and Cork, and I wouldn't be a bit surprised. Both of them probably won't win, but I wouldn't be a bit surprised to see one of them win.
If we'll see what happens next week, but either we'll never hear that clip again, or if that happens, we'll be rerunning it every 2 seconds all next week. So talk to us then about the game of the weekend as you see it.
Yeah, it's a massive game, because it'll come back to head-to-head. If this is Wexford's first game, but if they're beaten by Dublin on Sunday, they're really chasing their tail. They have the saving grace in that they're playing Kilkenny in the last game, and that if they're beaten on Sunday and can beat them, it'll probably work out in their favour to come maybe third in the group. But this is kind of, Davy has, last 2 years, the league has been everything for Wexford, and getting to Division 1 first, 1A first, then being kind of competitive in Division 1A. I think he changed his kind of tact this year. Well, they still had a couple of good results. It was more about getting more bodies in for when we actually need to bring on 4 or 5 lads in Championship, having them ready. I don't think it's going to be the prettiest game. I think it'll be jam-packed between the two 45s. I just think Wexford have placed more stock in the Championship this year than they did any other year. Rory O'Connor is fit, and that's a major thing. Lee Chin is fit and playing a lot better than he was last year as well. It's going to be a massive, massive battle, but I just think Wexford will come out. I don't think it'll be too pretty on the eye, but I think Wexford might just edge it.
How are Dublin going to survive without Greg Kennedy?
I have to say, while I don't condone what he did, right, I think it was blown out of all proportion altogether. It was just put your hand up and catch a ball. There was like he was smiling as he was doing. There was no malice or anything to it. I don't think he didn't come in. Without being smart, he didn't come in and like hit a player like Davey did a couple of years ago, or hit lad a shoulder at. Like I thought it was very, very, very.
Like he does deserve to be banned for sure.
Yeah,
but
I think 4 weeks is.
I think it's fine.
Yeah, I think that's fine. I wouldn't be going mad about that.
Yeah, same. So that's the game of the weekend, and like I mean, you talk about Dublin and kind of looking at what they might have done last Saturday. I think also in terms of overblowing things, the idea that changed the game in Kilkenny's favour was a little bit overstating it a small bit. Was this the kind of same old Dublin that we get, that we think that they're on the precipice of something huge, aka going down to Nolan Park and getting the win that some people expected them to get?
Some
people in this room might have actually had money on Dublin to win that game last Saturday. Or is that like a really harsh kind of summation of where they're at?
I don't think it's that harsh, because when the pressure has been on them maybe the last couple of years, they haven't delivered that performance that when they're expected to deliver it, they haven't done it, and they were in the position to do so at the weekend. But while I don't think the Greg Kennedy incident changed the game, once you rile up Cody like that, and Cody, like, he was literally spitting fire, like, imagine being on the receiving end of that, and the crowd just got totally behind that as well, and it was just before half time as well, not long before half time.
True.
And he would have, imagine that dressing room at half time, and like, if work rate was only at 80 or 85%, it was through the roof in the second half. That definitely did help.
It's a tool, isn't it? It's just a tool to use.
Yeah.
It was a team talk at half time, the perfect tonic for it, wasn't it? It was absolutely perfect.
Well, like, it
timing.
can't, like, everyone talks about the science of things and everything like that. It's hard beat something like that.
Yeah.
It's hard beat emotion as well sometimes too, especially if your work rate's not up. Something like that. I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall in that dressing room. Like, geez, I'd say it would have been priceless.
I tell you what, it was great comedy. I watched the game. It was a great game, a great comedy moment as well when it all happened, wasn't it, as well?
But Cody facing up to him, like, all up in his grill, sort of bouncing on his toes. Jeez, we really want to see that. Like, that's...
And the funny thing is, like, without being smart, as hardy bastards go in the last 20 years of hurling, Greg Kennedy is as hardy as you get. It's wondering, he knew he'd done wrong. If it had been harmless enough, he probably would have turned around and squared up to him.
It's the second time he's got in a game against Napier there last year. He got a ban, and Henry Shefflin was saying he was winding him up in a game in 01 as well. Christy O'Connor, great detail in it in the Times this week, actually.
Henry basically said he had to kind of, that marking him that day kind of changed his career. He was just mounting in his ear the whole game, and he just let it get to him completely, and he learned from it and became the great player, obviously, that he was.
Since you're back in studio with us, where are the Offaly hurlers at? Obviously a bit of a disappointing one last week.
Yeah, no, I was at the game, maybe not as disappointed as other people. I just have to call a spade a spade. That's our level at the moment, and you're going to the 4 McDonagh Cup games and you're thinking, right, this game could go either way. You're not going to, like you were going to an Leinster Championship match last year, we were thinking, oh, please don't concede a goal in the first 15 minutes and get beaten by 20 or whatever. So, like, that's our level now. Laois I was at the game, and Laois were just a little bit better than us, just had a couple of more attackers that could do a bit more than our lads, and our defence was a bit porous. We conceded 4-22. The game against Westmeath on Saturday is massive.
Huge.
Well, like, if we're beaten, we're out, because in my view, Westmeath and Laois are the most likely to contest the final, and our head-to-head is negative against the two of them. So if you lose that, then you're staring at the bottom end rather than the top end. So yeah, it's scary enough.
Question of the morning: would you have Seamus Coleman at right back in your Premier League team of the decade?
Yeah, it's amazing. Like, people overreact to bad performances, i.e., you.
Oh yeah.
One or two bad performances.
You say overreact or react?
If it's a bad performance, then you say okay, but nah, it wasn't even a bad performance. So yeah.
You haven't. I mean, in typical fashion, you must be hanging out with Kev too much. You haven't actually answered the question.
Would I have Seamus Coleman on the best Premier League team of the last 10 years?
Yeah. One word answer.
I don't follow the Premier League enough. Was Steve Finnan in the last 10 years? No. I'd probably have Seamus Coleman.
You gave it away with your question. Big thanks for that. Enjoy the hurling over the weekend, and hope you get done, obviously, by Westmeath.